Chapter 3, The Reaction. Let those who are without reproach cast the first stone. Saint Maximum after the ninth Thermidor. Era of Carnot. Saint Chamon, the companions of Jesus. The prison of Aix. The song called Le Réveil du Peuple. The 13th of Vendémiaire. The Jacobin terrorists had been so completely oppressed, all ranks of society, that the reaction was certain to be violent, every day notwithstanding the convention and its committees. Opinion advanced with rapidity towards another order of ideas. The young Robespierre had evinced much esteem towards General Bonaparte, and that was sufficient to cause him to be proscribed, arrested upon imputations the most frivolous and groundless, restored to liberty. A few days after, he was definitely deposed, and he went to Paris to solicit an employment. Barras, more powerful than ever, received him favorably enough to give him some hopes. Joseph had retired to Genoa. On my side, I began to perceive the inclinations of the well-disposed around me change to coldness and disdain. The suspected, restored to their families, forgot very soon that we had prevented their being sent to the guillotine, and remembered only their detention. They filled the popular society. The favor of the multitude left us gradually in order to attach itself to the counter-revolutionary party. This party, justly irritated at what it had suffered, beheld in the Republic the cause of its misfortunes. It confounded the Jacobins and the moderates and the executioners and the liberators, all together in the same anathema. For them, Republic and terror were one and the same thing. And how was it possible that it could be otherwise, since, after 40 years, the opinion of the majority of the French is still subjugated by the same prejudices? Although I was in a small town at a distance from Paris, I was well placed to judge the movements of the reaction. I saw that far from contenting themselves with overthrowing the demagogical reign of terror, they were about to create a new terror. I thought, therefore, after the ninth Thermidor, of soliciting a change of residence in my administration, but the solicitations of the patriots of Saint Maximin detained me in the midst of them for some months longer. They redoubled in activity. We disputed the ground with the revolutionists, and we regained sufficient influence to reassure us. Thus, in our little corner of the earth, we performed the parody of that which was passing at the convention, where the tail of the Committee of Public Safety endeavored to retain the direction of the political movement. But the parody was better than the piece, for we had never stained with blood our municipal dictatorship, while the companions of Robespierre, having shared in its crimes, found themselves by their antecedent conduct obliged to justify the excesses of the reign of terror. Carnot himself, the most esteemed and the most estimable of the members of the committee, had even dared to say, when he announced the triumphs of our armies, "These victories are the effects of the measures with which they reproach us as crimes. It is with these successes that we render an account of all the blood that we have shed." Carnot sought thus to cover with the shield of his high renown his two guilty colleagues, but that which was generous as a private man was a serious fault for a statesman. It was giving reason to the royalists, who confounded in one all the shades of republicanism. They calumniated likewise the French people in supposing that the blood shed upon the scaffold had been necessary for the prodigies of our armies. Far from that, our armies performed prodigies of valor, notwithstanding the horror with which the crimes of the interior inspired them. The prompt and violent measures of the administration, the conscriptions, the forced circulation of the assignats, the forced loan, and even the Maximum had without doubt contributed to our military successes, but never did a drop of blood shed by our tyrants upon the scaffold have the slightest influence over our victories. Never. Savants, learned men employed by the Committee of the Public Safety contributed greatly to those victories in creating extraordinary means by which they obtained 12 millions of saltpeter in a few months, instead of 1 million, the ordinary produce. They owed to them 15 foundries of bronze and iron instead of 6 that had formerly existed, 20 new manufactories of arms, 200 workshops for repairing the telegraph, the balloon applied to military service. In a word, they owed to them the perfection of all the arts of war and the simplification of processes by the most profound theories. But even if Bailly and Lavoisier had not fallen beneath their conventional prescriptions, would those sciences which the Republic made use of have been less useful in their results? It was then absurd to say that the blood that was shed had served us in our victories. It was certainly not the blood of the chiefs of science, nor of the old men, women, and children, nor that of the martyred king, of his wife, of his sister, nor that of the marriages in the vessels of the Loire, nor of those who fell by the murderous grape shot at Lyon and Toulon. The false position in which Carnot found himself made him say that he would never else have thought of saying. He shut his eyes upon what might be the result of that conduct, which in the department struck us with stupor and encouraged the fury of the enemies of the Revolution. Behold, say they, that atrocious convention supports Barrère, Biot, Coyot, Carrier, Fouquier, Tinville. Those who overthrew Robespierre are not then any better than he. All they wanted to do was to save themselves. We must get rid of them altogether. We must disarm and imprison in their turn all those who served under the government of terror, just like the one we're under right now. During the first months after Thermidor, the conduct of the convention did the greatest injury to the patriots of the provinces. Its hesitation, its unskillful returns towards the reign of blood compromised the Republic. We multiplied addresses to them in order to satisfy at length the universal indignation against the principal accomplices of Robespierre, the only measure to prevent the people from doing justice to themselves. After 3 months of error, the convention began to open their eyes, but not soon enough. Beforehand in the South, with the companies of the Companions of Jesus and of the Son, who took as a pretext for their organization the impunity of the great criminals. In November 1794, Carrier, a name for which there is not a sufficient epithet in the human language, ceased to stain the soil of France. In January 1795, the cavern of the Jacobins was closed. In April, he who talked of the awakening of the lion might with more truth have said the awakening of the tiger, and the other who took the balance of the guillotine as the die for coining money was with one of the 2 executioners of Lyon condemned to transportation. In May, the infernal judge was judged in his turn.